Recording in progress.
Okay. Welcome to the public portion of the Chatham Township Committee Workshop Meeting on October 10th, 2023. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I just want to make a couple quick words this evening. I don't normally like to opine on national issues, but today I wanted to make an exception. I want to take a moment to address a matter of great disturbance. The recent attacks from Hamas on Israelis have reminded us all of the enduring struggles for peace and security in our world and the impact of these events on our Jewish community locally. The horrific attacks against Israel, including the murder and kidnapping of women and babies, are not just isolated events across the world. They have far-reaching consequences and affect all of us. I, for one, fully condemn these inhumane acts of evil in the strongest possible terms and stand in solidarity with the state of Israel and with all humanity regardless of race, religion, or belief. I fully believe in the right of Israel, like any nation, to defend its citizens and its sovereignty. In Chatham Township, we are fortunate to have a vibrant and resilient Jewish community that has contributed immeasurably to the fabric of our town. We want you to know that you are not alone during these times, and I'd like to offer our unwavering support, compassion, and solidarity to our Jewish neighbors, friends, and residents who may be feeling the weight of these events. Our community has always demonstrated a remarkable ability to come together during challenging moments. Let us continue to uphold the values of unity, understanding, and empathy as we stand by our Jewish neighbors and friends during these times. Now on to the approval of the agenda. No, we don't have to approve the agenda, right? Sorry. Okay, so now on to the hearing of citizens. Currently, the committee meeting room is open to the public, and we look forward to having you join us. Additionally, this meeting is being made available for public participation remotely. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during the public comment session by following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you're recognized to speak, please say your name, spell your last name, and give your street number. As a reminder, all public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, we will wait until you finish speaking before responding. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment during the public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments. Duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full according to the guidelines issued by the New Jersey State Local Government Services.
No written comments.
Okay. Anyone in the public? Okay, you want to come up to the microphone?
Hello, hi, good
Hi.
evening. So my name is Aditya Sethia, last name spelled S-E-T-H-I-A. We're residents of Fairmount Avenue. We've been in the town now for about 3 years. It's a general observation right now, more than a comment, and I think it's a question that, is there like anything that we can do from our side just to help things turn around in the construction department a little bit faster? It feels a bit like there are staffing issues there. We've been waiting on permits for a while and stuff, and I know we're not the only ones who say that, but is there anything we can do on our side just to help the process go along faster? Any feedback which we can get, or any measures which the township is taking to address any staffing shortages, etc., which you might have in place?
Yeah.
Hi. Well, first, my name is Ziad Shadi, Township Administrator. Thanks for coming. First, I would say probably best if you and I could connect after this. I'll give you contact information so I could look up specifically what's going on. There's generally a timeline that, regardless of staffing issues, has to be followed, but that's based off of a complete permit, everything being rendered.
Yep.
So without knowing the particulars of your specific application and permit, I really can't give you any details to see what exactly is going on.
Yep.
But we did have a lot of personnel changes this year.
That's what I was
right. So
about.
a number of changes. So that's probably, if anything, is improving things actually and making things even better, but they've been playing catch up on a lot of things that have fallen through the cracks in the past. So what I'll do is I'll speak to you just after. I'll get your
Perfect.
email address and contact info, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
No hands raised.
All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing of citizens and move on to our presentation from Jersey Central Power and Light.
Very good. Would you like me to stand up there, Mayor, since now we have
Sure.
an audience? I would have wanted to sit with my back turned to our public, and would someone be able to
I can help you out.
help me out with this? Thank you. Okay. Well, can we go to
We
one
just
more?
probably might need to move the mic to you.
Yeah, let's get the mic.
Okay, so this is just an overview of the company. For anyone who isn't aware, JCP&L is part of First Energy Corporation. It is one of 10 electric distribution companies that belongs to First Energy. First Energy acquired JCP&L about 2001, so about 22 years ago, when it was still GPU. First Energy, as you can see, has electric companies in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, of course, West Virginia, and Maryland. First Energy serves over 6 million customers in 6 states, has $46 billion in total assets, 12,000 employees. I'm one. My name is Yolanta Maziars, by the way, External Affairs for JCP&L. We have 24,000 transmission miles and 65,000 square miles of service territory. Thank you. And at this time, First Energy is in the process of deploying our smart meter program. So all of the old legacy meters that people have in our various service territories are now going to be replaced with smart meter technology. We've already done part of all of our customers in Ohio. We have completed our deployment in Pennsylvania, and we expect to deploy our smart meters in New Jersey over the course of the next 3 years. We just received permission from the Board of Public Utilities, the BPU in New Jersey, in February of 2022 for our smart meter program, and we began deploying this year and will continue for the next 3 years. Thank you. Now, what makes a smart meter smart? So there are a number of things. Smart meter, basically it's a digital meter that takes all of the information, the electrical usage information from your home, and it sends it to our back office. So a legacy meter, which is the meters that most of us have right now in our homes, in terms of data collection, it only captures our electricity consumption, and there's no onboard data storage, so it's not storing anything. It's just capturing and sending right to the company. A smart meter, it captures and stores voltage, which is important. Some people have voltage issues, and in the past, if you had a voltage issue, you had to call the company, and somebody had to come and install a voltage meter. Right now, we will be able to monitor voltage through the smart meter, and we will be able to detect, sometimes even before a customer knows that there is a voltage problem. There are power quality measurements, voltage is one, interval or time-stamped data information, and of course, electricity consumption. Now, in terms of communication, legacy meter, there's absolutely no communication capability between the company and the meter. With the smart meter, there's an integrated two-way communication between the meter and the application systems, which is us in the back office, and also between the meter and the premises. So if you have a smart thermostat, the meter can communicate with the smart thermostat. For outage, legacy meter, no outage detection. With a smart meter, we're going to know that there's an outage happening before the customer even knows. So that will assist us in pinpointing exactly where that outage is occurring, and it's going to enable us to send out crews more quickly and to be able to establish what types of crews we're going to need to send out in many cases. In terms of tampering or theft, with the legacy meter, we have to actually send somebody out on site to check. With the smart meter, we have automated meter tamper alarms, and we have support for theft detection and other analytics that smart meter stores. For meter reads, we no longer have to send our meter readers out to your homes. It's all automated with the smart meter, and there are on-demand readings, and we have a remote service switch. So if somebody's moving out of an apartment, we shut it off. Somebody's moving in, we can turn it on remotely without having to send somebody there. For consumption, with the legacy meter, the estimated costs and usage data was provided through bills only. So if you got an estimated bill, if we couldn't read your bill, or we couldn't read your meter, you got an estimated bill. With the smart meter, customer data presentment via First Energy website is available to all customers within 48 hours. Although that's planned for later deployment while we're switching out the smart meters. For usage, the legacy meter, we measured per month, and with the smart meter, it's measured in daily registers and hourly or 15-minute intervals, depending on how it's set up. So the smart meter benefits, so some customer and societal benefits, future online access to hourly interval usage data, via the Home Energy Analyzer tool on the First Energy website. That's going to be able to help you to monitor how much energy you're using and set your thermostats and your other equipment in your home accordingly. You have an ability to make more informed energy decisions. It'll show you if that old refrigerator of yours is sucking up way more energy than a new refrigerator would. It enables time of use programs and an inevitable carbon reduction. Operational benefits, it avoids the field visits. We don't have to come out anymore to do the meter reads. For people who have meters that are inside of a basement, you don't have to be there anymore to open it up and wait for the meter reader. The move-in, move-out disconnects that I mentioned earlier, much easier. The Dunning reconnects, those are the reconnects for people who could not pay their bill. So once they either satisfy the bills that are in arrears or have entered into a payment program, we can automatically reconnect them without having to come out. There's, of course, the reduced exposure to field safety risk, in other words, dogs, because dogs are usually the field safety risk that meter readers do run into. The reduction of billing exception resolution activities, in other words, there are fewer mistakes. They are accurate, these smart meters. The outage detection that I mentioned before via smart meters, we're going to know it before you know it. The voltage issues detection that I mentioned, and the tampering detection. Now, how do the smart meters work? So the smart meter records customer electricity usage and sends it to this little box right there with these little antenna on it. That's called a CGR. I have more on that. I think it's slide 9. The data is transmitted to us, the electric company, via our network equipment, which is those little boxes that are installed on utility poles and cell towers. That ends up in First Energy back-end systems. We collect the data, and then customers can also access their usage data, via that Home Energy Analyzer tool, which is going to be available on the First Energy website. Now, the equipment overview. So we're using an Itron OpenWay Centron meter, and these are just some of the specifications of that meter. It's using a 900 megahertz two-way unlicensed radio frequency module. That's the way that it communicates with the CGR. The 2.4 gigahertz Zigbee radio, that interfaces with your home network. And the 200 amp remote disconnect reconnect switch, that's the way that we can connect it, turn it off, turn it back on. The tamper notifications that include inversion, removal of the meter potentially, or a reverse power flow. It complies with all standards, with the FCC regulations, and also with UL 2735, which is a voluntary safety standard that the company is also complying with. All smart meters are identified with the blue stripe. The old legacy meters had the dials, this has a digital read. So that's how you can tell that it's a smart meter.
I'm sorry, that home area network, are you talking about personal network, or are you talking about you guys install something that, where it says,
The Zigbee radio. Right, the two.
for interfacing with a home area network device?
No, that is with the home area network device, meaning like a smart thermostat, like a Nest, so that it can give the customer the information of how much electricity that device is using. That's something that it's your choice. You can interface. You can do that if you want to. If you want to monitor how much electricity you're using through some of these interconnected devices that use electricity. So that's what that is. The smart meter has a lot of different capabilities, but it is safe. I mean, we don't sell any information. We don't keep any information. Any information that goes from that smart meter to the back office does not contain your name or your address or any personal identifiers that could be intercepted. So it's completely secure. Now, this is the CGR I was talking about. This is the connected grid router. This is what picks up the signal from the smart meter and sends it to the back office. You might see them. They're being mounted on poles. If you ever see them, they're those little like grayish white boxes. That's what that is. That's the CGR. That's made by Cisco. We used to use this one. Now we're installing those. So our deployment. As I said, we will be doing this for 3 years. It started in 2023. Our approximate installation dates, which we all know, it never starts when we think it's going to start. But the first installation dates started down in Allenhurst, which is our central region. The second deployment will start in Morristown. This is the Morristown region. So Chatham Township belongs to the Morristown region. We have started the deployment. We have gotten some of those CGRs up on poles and on wireless antennas, and now we are starting to deploy the smart meters in residences and in commercial and institutional customer locations. So that has already started. Now the installation, our First Energy field technicians will be installing the smart meters primarily in non-residential customers' locations and some residential, but very few. Most of the because we have so many more residential locations than we do non-residential. And we're going to need our technicians sometimes to do other things. So we have contracted with a contractor. They are called Wellington. And the way that you can recognize a Wellington field technician who's there to exchange your meter to a smart meter is that they wear a brown uniform. Their truck is going to say Wellington, and they are going to have an identification tag. So if you are ever questioning who is at your door, you can always call our 1-800 number and verify who that person is at your door and whether it is a licensed contractor that's working with us. So it's only going to be Wellington. If anyone else shows up and is trying to tell you that they're going to install a smart meter and they're not from Wellington and they're not from First Energy, do not let them into your house. Now, if anyone who does not want a smart meter, there is an opt-out program. This program has been approved by the BPU, and if a customer opts out prior to a smart meter being installed in your location, then you are going to be charged a $15 monthly additional charge for the monthly meter reading, because we are still going to have to send meter readers to read the legacy meters. You will retain your existing meter, and the monthly opt-out fees will commence once the MRU is bill certified. So in other words, the meter reading units are called MRUs. And they are certified when a percentage of a certain number of meters in that MRU are certified. So when 99% of them are certified, that's when we can start charging the $15 opt-out fee from the customers who chose to opt out. Now, if a customer opts out after a smart meter is installed, the meter replacement charge to go from the smart meter back to a legacy meter is $44.46. It's a one-time fee. And then the monthly charge will commence once that meter is replaced. It's $15 per month. The customer can avoid the meter exchange fee if they allow the company just to disable the communication card in the smart meter. So you can keep the smart meter, we disable the communication card, and you don't have to pay the $44.46 fee. Okay. Now, we also have a repair process. Occasionally, we are finding situations when we go out and visit customers' homes and locations where meters have been damaged, meters and other equipment have been damaged. So we are the electric company, but we are not licensed electricians, and we will not fix any customer-owned equipment. The customer needs to hire a licensed electrician to come and fix any of these situations where customer-owned electric equipment has been damaged over time. So what we do is, in this process, customers are given 40 days to have the repairs completed before we can go out and install the smart meter. So 3 letters are mailed to the customers throughout the 40-day repair window, just to let them know that that time frame has started. Letter number 1 informs the customer of the need for repair, kicks off the 40-day window. Letter 2 is a reminder after 20 days, and letter 3 informs the customer that they face potential discontinuation because we can't have these types of situations surrounding our electric meters. It's dangerous, especially with the pulled conduit right there. That's dangerous. So if we're going to see something like that, we're going to need that to be repaired and replaced. Okay, so we have been communicating this. Some customers may have already seen our communications on social media. You may have also already received our letters in your electric bills. We've already sent those out. So 90 days prior to any deployment of the meters, we have the digital and social media advertising. We have the New Jersey Smart Meter webpage that's available. Our webpage, if you go to firstenergycorp.com and you go to help and smart meters, it will take you to the frequently asked questions. That is a wealth of information. Everything you ever wanted to know about radio frequency and its safety, about these smart meters and exactly how they work. We have the white papers, we have all of the research that's attached to those frequently asked questions. You can click. We also have links to websites that further explain the smart meter itself and everything that it does, everything about it, the science behind it, and also all of the regulations that also are applied. So 30 days prior, we have customer mailings, we have the brochure. 6 weeks out, we have the letter. 2 weeks out, and then the day of meter install, we show up. If you're not home, we leave a door tag to let you know that we're going to come back. And now this is just, the customer education campaign, and we have had the advertising, we've had the ads and the social media, and all of the links are also embedded so that you can click into any one of these on social media or on the internet, and it'll bring you to our website where you can educate yourself further on these smart meters. And thank you, Mayor, thank you, Township Committee, for having me this evening. Does anyone have any questions?
Is there a notification requirement about the opt-out? Like, I saw the advertising stuff at the end, like, is the BPU or anybody requiring that, or like, what are the affirmative duties on the part of First Energy to let people know that they don't have to have a smart meter if they don't want one?
It's on our website, whoops, and of course, it's on all of the communications. So everything about the smart meters, the deployment, the opt-out, all of that is sent to customers. You can go on our website. If you would like to opt out, there's an 800 number to call. And they take all of the customer's information and log it into our system, and then we know that that customer is opting out. And we also know that that customer, once that MRU is certified, that customer will be receiving the $15 fee on their monthly billing.
And for people who have meters inside their basement, you mentioned, are those smart meters all gonna be outside? Or are they gonna be in the same place?
I think that we are putting them in the same place unless there's a way that we can get them to the outside. There are a number of locations, and I've seen them, that there's no way to put a meter other than where it is right now, just the way that the structure is built. It all depends. I've seen some commercial, some commercial developments where there's no other way to get to the meter except, to keep it where it is.
I believe the stage that we're at is that most of the town has received the brochure. If not,
Yes.
Has everyone here received it?
I don't get
Okay,
snail mail, so
okay, well,
that's my concern. A lot of people get electronic.
yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we've had you in, and thank you for coming, because
course.
this is part of informing the public. Inevitably, we will get the calls at the municipal staff will get the calls, and so.
Yes,
this
you
is-
will.
This is part of informing. But it looked like from the timeline here that the brochure would go out, and then it was within about 6 weeks. Now, I can imagine that's somewhat, loose, but is that the timeline that you understand we're on
Yes,
now?
yes, we are on that timeline. Although we've been advertising this for quite some time. We've been doing press releases probably from the time that we received permission from the BPU to actually do this rollout. So it's something that I've mentioned from time to time when meeting with officials, because it's something that we know was going to be rolled out. So this is something that we've been trying to communicate over time. I know it's impossible to always communicate everything to everyone. If customers are registered to receive emails from us or text messages, you will have received that information via email. If you're not registered, you should. You should go to our website, firstenergycorp.com, and sign up to get our emails. We do have, a lot of really good information that we send out to customers, not only about smart meters, but about saving energy, about preparing for storms. So, it really is worthwhile to sign up for that. Also, to sign up for My Town notifications, then you are notified when there's an outage, when that outage might be restored. Now, with the implementation of smart meters, it's going to be easier for us to be able to tell who is going to be restored when and how long it's going to take. So the smart meter technology is good for a number of reasons, not only monitoring electricity and just making it more convenient for the customer and the company, but also for outages. It's going to be a really great tool for widespread outages.
So even if somebody is getting, like I am, electronic, billing and everything, is it gonna be mailed, the more brochure? I don't remember seeing anything about this, but I'm busy just like every other Chatham Township resident, so, is it gonna be in the mail regardless of whether or not you're signed up for?
I'm gonna check on that, because presumably people who sign up for our electronic mailing don't want things in the mail, and we want to respect that. So I'm going to make sure, I'll ask when I go back to work tomorrow, whether or not those customers are still going to receive the printed copy when they've already told us they don't want any printed copies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make sure.
Okay. And I also thought this was gonna be a general update, but I don't wanna put you on the spot. Are you prepared to speak to any other improvements, either done, scheduled, on the way?
Of course.
Okay.
We have a transmission project that I've been speaking to Committeeman Lois about, and I believe that the township administrator and I have spoken about this as well. I still owe you a map. We have a transmission project that is going to be going through Chatham Township. It is where our transmission line is now. We are upgrading that, and that is going to go a long way in saving us from outages in the future, transmission outages, which are probably the worst kind of outages because they affect the highest number of customers. So this is pursuant to a BPU reg. The BPU mandates that we upgrade our infrastructure every so often, so this is part of a scheduled maintenance, but what is happening is that those wood poles are now going to be metal poles, so they won't be as easily damaged during a storm as a wood pole would be. So we are replacing almost one for one. So it there shouldn't be any visual impact, there shouldn't be any difference. It's going to be in the same location that it always has been, but it's going to be better.
So just picking up on that thought, I had heard recently from a local electrician, and I have heard this before, that some of the problems that our township residents experience are because the infrastructure is antiquated and not able to handle the volume that we have, that everybody works from home and everything else. So will this help to address in terms of capacity if there's...
This is going to help on the transmission side. This is going to bolster the transmission. Now you're talking of infrastructure. There's transmission infrastructure. There's distribution infrastructure. We are always updating distribution infrastructure. We are required to. So whenever there's an outage, we go out there, and whatever equipment we repair, obviously we're repairing it with new equipment, with new wire, so it's always being repaired. We also have our repairs done on a cyclical level. So we go out with the infrared technology every 4 years to look at all of the distribution system to ensure that there aren't any issues with it. If we see that there is an issue, it gets on our list and we have to go out there and we have to fix it. So that's something we do on a rotational basis. Now the most important thing that we do in order to maintain our distribution system is vegetation management. Here in our service territory, the number one reason, the number one cause, beyond everything else, of outages are trees and the critters that live in trees. Whenever the animals are active in the spring and in the fall, we tend to have a great many outages because of animal contact. Now that we have a great many trees that are dying and are relatively close to our equipment, I mean, a 100-foot tree, even if it's 50 feet away from our equipment, can damage it, you know, if it comes down. There are so many dead ash trees that come down, and if those limbs happen to be near our wires, we take care of those limbs. We come by when we do our vegetation management and we cut them off to make sure that they are not going to harm any of our equipment. But that really is the number one reason. It's always tree contact or limb contact or something to that effect, you know, and that is, and we are required by the BPU, we are on a rotation to do vegetation management, and we do. We take it very seriously.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Benziar, I have been reporting on this. I just want to quickly, just for residents, just correct me where I'm wrong here, but it seems to me that the Gillette Power Substation was rebuilt in the last maybe year and a half or
Yes.
so.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a power outage related to Green Village, and there was some upgrades made there and repairs made there, the Green Village substation.
Yes.
And then the Trainer substation that fed Chatham and Chatham Borough mainly,
Yes.
a small portion of Chatham Township, had a significant outage, and there was much to do about that this summer.
Yes.
That's been rebuilt because a temporary substation came in, and then there had to be a rebuild, right?
Yes, well, not a rebuild, but there was a repair made there.
Okay.
Engineering is still investigating. I would like to go back to Chatham Borough and have this discussion with them as well, and eventually we will. Engineering is still investigating, and we are making sure that something like that doesn't happen again. I mean, it was something that was so unusual a substation failure. I mean, that rarely happens, and it wasn't the entire substation. It was the entry into the substation. Something happened, and engineering is still investigating why exactly that happened. It did take a little while for us to get a mobile substation up into the area, and you know, this is not a trivial thing. We're replacing an entire substation, at least temporarily. It takes time to hook that up, and that's the reason for such a long outage. And I've noticed this, and this is anecdotal, this is just something that I've noticed working for First Energy, is very often when there is equipment damage due to a tree or whatever it is, or a lightning strike, our crew will go out there, they will isolate exactly where the damage happened, they will repair it, and then it almost seems, almost inevitably, in another day or so, we have another small outage or a blip on that very same line. And I've come to notice this pattern, and what I think is happening is when you have something as catastrophic as a lightning strike, I mean, that's something that's, lightning is powerful. When it damages equipment, sometimes equipment downstream may be damaged, but it's not something that we can see with our naked eye, and it's not something that we can sense with any, with any of our technology, and it's only something that reveals itself a couple of days later. I've noticed these things happening, it's like, I always say it happens in threes, it's almost like it happens in threes. And then after we make those repairs, and the public is sufficiently angry because it happened 3 times, and they can't understand why, once it's done, it's done. And then I don't see that same thing repeat itself for a very long time, if ever. I mean, I've only been here 2 years, so it may repeat itself in the future.
And I just want to say we had 2 other significant outages, and they were both related to animal contact, and they were both on the transmission line that
Yes.
is scheduled to be replaced. And those will be metal poles, and they will be slightly taller, right?
Slightly
So there'll
taller,
be less, and there will be vegetation management around that.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
We do transmission vegetation management, and before we do, in case people have noticed helicopters flying around occasionally around our transmission wires, those are our helicopters. They have to scope out the transmission line to see if there's any impediment, and to look at, you know, how much vegetation management is going to have to happen. And once they do their review, then we send out our vegetation management teams along the transmission line to make sure that the vegetation is cleared away from the transmission line. And now with the metal poles, and I'm glad that you reminded me about that, the animals are less likely to climb a metal pole than they were to climb a wooden pole.
Thank you.
So,
So when it comes to vegetation management, it's a practice that's been employed for quite some time.
Yes.
It's not a new practice. So you're speaking of it as if it's an enhancement of the prior vegetation management? That is to say, do you plan on doing it more frequently or in some more robust manner? Or, I don't understand, because you should be doing vegetation management anyway, right?
We were doing vegetation management, however, many municipalities and many customers were not accepting of that vegetation management, and we were stopped. We were refused. People fought us on the vegetation management. That was prior to Isaias, which occurred probably 3 or 4 years ago, that hurricane. After that, it seems that there is less resistance to our vegetation management, and people are less likely to come out, and yell at our contractors about taking off too much. We try to strike a happy balance between upsetting customers and making something look, the way people don't want it to look. People want their trees to be lush and beautiful, but unfortunately, sometimes those lush and beautiful trees were planted in the wrong place, and now they're growing right up into cable wires and electric wires. We can't have that. So, the vegetation management, as you say, we have been doing vegetation management, but I think now it's more in cooperation with our customers. Everybody's happy when we do the vegetation management, whereas in the past, they were not happy with us at all. I still get phone calls every once in a while, from people saying that we're decimating their trees, but I want to assure the public that Our contractors and our foresters are tree experts. So they do know what they're doing. They're not going to kill the trees. They do know how to cut the trees to make sure that there is clearance for the line, but at the same time, we're still maintaining healthy growth and a healthy tree.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you coming in and providing us all this information this evening, answering our questions. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
And we'll be in contact if there's any more questions and so forth.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to our reports. How do you want to start?
We go down the order since,
Okay. Okay, accepting resignation of administrative assistant, that seems to be self-explanatory.
Yep, just keeping you all posted on what's gonna be coming on the agenda for next month, so we'll be doing a resolution to accept that resignation. We'll also be doing a resolution to, I'm sorry? Yes,
We can't say names.
yes. Yes, it's in the front office. We'll be doing a resolution to authorize going out to RFQ for professional services as well. That's for our reorg meeting, so all professionals for the township. Will essentially be a repeat of this past cycle. The one difference is we'll probably be putting in some more clear parameters for our appraisal services, based off of our tax assessor's suggestions, so that way we have set rates rather than hourly rates, whether it's residential or commercial. The discussion item that I've got is electricity auction. There was some background provided to you on that. So for some context, we have in the past had auctions to aggregate all of our energy use for the municipal properties, municipal bills. We're not talking about anything affecting residents, although that is something that some towns do. This is just for our electricity for all of our municipal properties. You saw the accounts listed in the analysis. That is the analysis that is just an estimate, but it shows that we could save a couple $1,000s by doing that, aggregate all of our electricity consumption, go out to auction, find suppliers for the electricity. The distribution is still through JCP&L, of course, but the manufacturer, the transmission will still be with JCP&L. The hope is that we would go out to auction on the same day as one of our committee meetings, because you have to approve that ultimately, and the bids are only valid for a certain number of hours. So we would time it, if it's okay with you, to either be for the October Township Committee meeting or the November Township Committee meeting. Go out to bid, we'll have that in the morning, and then get that price, the winning price, and as part of that, we would not exceed whatever the JCP&L rate is anyways. So if JCP&L were to drop their rates, we would automatically go to the lower. So it would never be more than what we would be paying, sort of the default rate.
And how often does that process have to occur?
So we'll set the terms as part of the bid, whether we want to do a 12-month, 24-month, or potentially longer. Our consultant is not advising that we go longer than 24. There's just too many variables there to lock ourselves in. So if anything, it would probably be a 12 or 24, but it could be shorter. We'll see all the different bid prices and how they fall. If one of them is really, really good for, let's say, 6 months, 12 months, I think is the shortest, or maybe 9 months, whatever that is, that's what we're gonna go with, but nothing really too long term.
So if the rate is never gonna be more than JCP&L, with the JCP&L rate, why wouldn't we offer it to our residents as well?
Well, we would have to do a separate auction with them. So that's what's known as a reverse energy auction. I've done those in other towns, energy aggregation auction. That's a much longer process and not part of this, because we're the customer, we can do this quite simply. It's ours. If we were to do an energy aggregation auction, we'd have to introduce an ordinance and pass an ordinance to create the program. And then there's going to be a process by which we select a vendor a consultant who's gonna administer the program. Then they have to go through a whole notification process to the community. They have to do opt-outs. There's an aggressive mailing campaign that they have to do. Then we find out what everybody's, what the pool looks like in terms of total kilowatt hours for everybody that is participating, and then we would go out to auction that way. That's residential. We are a commercial entity, so our rates are also a little different. So if that's something that the committee is interested in pursuing, certainly something I think we could set our goal on for 2024.
Okay, then on to, there's nothing for the clerk?
Just a couple of things I wouldn't mind bringing to the public's attention for
Okay.
those who are watching. That the rabies clinic has been scheduled for November 4th from 9 to 10 at the Public Works Garage. Next Tuesday, October 17th, is the deadline for voter registration, and the early voting period will be October 28th to November 5th, and the closest early voting location is in Madison. And then if anyone has any questions about my report.
All right, on to construction.
So over here, we've got still a vacancy in the position of fire subcode. We've been advertising it, trying to find fire subcode officials. Have not had luck to doing so. Therefore, we need to sort of retroactively, but also proactively appoint our construction official as the acting fire subcode official. We've done that, I think, 2 or 3 times already, and received extensions from the state. We would need to do it again. My goal is that we do it through the end of this month. But simultaneously, we may have a lead on a fire subcode official. So if we appoint someone at the October meeting, the next meeting, then that person would start November, or we'd negotiate whenever they'd be able to start. So we're going to time the two, the acting position, to fall in line with whatever that start date is of the replacement, if we can find one.
Sounds good. Any questions? All right, I don't see anything for engineering.
No,
Good.
but coming up, in the next meeting or two, we'll be talking about stormwater management ordinance.
Mhm.
We did get some feedback on that just after the agenda deadline, so probably November we'll be introducing that.
Okay.
I just want to follow up, I
Yes.
had asked about the Hillside Trail project
Yes.
connectivity to the Red Brick Schoolhouse, and you said it's is that part of this specific extension?
Yes, the phase 2 extension, yes, that's the goal, is to connect it up
Cool.
to the Red Brick Schoolhouse.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Finance?
Finance, the only thing we've got on the agenda is a resolution to do a Chapter 159 for the COPS grant. That's the fiber optic grant that we received. So we finally actually got the notification from the Department of Justice. So now we can go ahead and do the Chapter 159. And
Okay.
that dovetails into number 6, police, which is the authorizing the bid. So I've had meetings with our engineer, the electrical engineers over at his firm, and our chief, to put together the bid package, so that way we're ready to go. Once you authorize it at the next meeting, then the intent would be to advertise that bid shortly thereafter. Kind of a rough timeline, if things work out according to plan, we would advertise, let's say first week of November, it hits the paper, advertise for about 30 days, we might be able to make an award in December, if not January. And then hopefully a project that could take no more than 3 months, depending on materials and mobilization, but I think within the first quarter of 2024, we could be done with that.
Okay. Next item is the SLEO agreement?
We talked about that in executive,
Yep.
but it's listed here for resolution.
Okay.
And then a purchase and trade in of firearms, so the police department needs to purchase another firearm in light of the retirements and personnel changes we've had there, and we'll be trading in one of those firearms, and so reducing that cost, but you have to approve that.
Okay. Now on to public works, the storage roof replacement?
Correct. So that was a capital item in the capital budget. The funds are there for this. There is a quote from Lamar Roofing to make that change, so you have to authorize that. It's over the bid threshold. So the hope is we have that on the agenda for your consideration at the next meeting. Any questions on that?
Next was filling a vacancy?
Yes, so as you know, we have a retirement coming up at the end of the year with our DPW. A longtime employee, we'll be recognizing them over 40 years of service, but just want to make sure that there's no concerns or objections to my advertising to start filling that vacancy. I'd rather start the process as soon as possible. It's hard finding people these days. It was very difficult finding a mechanic. I don't want DPW shorthanded, especially going into the winter. And if we can hopefully have a 1 or 2 week overlap, that would be even better. Okay.
Sounds good.
What's the,
Yes.
how does that work where you have somebody who's such a senior employee, senior both in experience, but also obviously older, you know, like, do you bring somebody in at the bottom to fill that role for the next 40 years in theory, but obviously not as anywhere near as experienced either, you know?
Yeah, so it really, I leave a lot of that up to the DPW, to the directors of the departments, right? You know, a lot of it's gonna be where we're willing to start the pay at. That was the issue with the mechanic. It's also been some of the issues that we have with the police department, right? Trying to get good people trained, certifications, have all these, you have to have higher starting pay. So we do have the flexibility, and then recently we negotiated contract one where our starting salary is higher with DPW than it was before, which is good. Makes us a bit more attractive, and we have the flexibility, if we would like to start them at a higher pay scale. Generally, we only do that for folks who have some certification, some licensing, some credential, whether an electrician, a plumber, a mason. So it really is gonna largely depend on the applicant pool though. We will advertise a fairly larger window, not the whole window, but a couple steps. You know, first step, rather than 1 to whatever, I think it goes backwards. But we would start and give that big range, so we see whoever's interested in applying. Generally, you're not gonna find folks from other towns that are gonna be willing to leave their town and lose that seniority, not just in terms of salary, but also vacation days that they're starting out with. You know, that was an issue that we faced a couple times already. So, you know, we'll be flexible. Rich will make a recommendation to me, and then depending on how that goes, I'll come to you for consent or, you know, flexibility.
All right, I don't see anything under recreation tax collector or tax assessor.
No other action.
Any
items
other
for next meeting.
questions or anything?
Just real quick, I thought it was maybe under Public Works, but
Yes.
looking now, I think it might have been under engineering, shipyard, but the underground storage tank removal,
Yes.
what, can you just give a little bit more color on what's going on with that?
Sure, really not much at this point. So the company did the testing, they submitted the report, and now it's just kind of a monitoring type situation. They're gonna keep coming back every so often. So we awarded that contract to, I believe it's called Finelli, was it earlier this year or late last year? And so as part of that, there's a number of tests that they have to do, and there's a waiting period between each test. So they've done their tests, now we just kind of sit and wait. But it has not found anything's gotten worse there. And I know, you know, Carl Woodward, now getting into specifics legally, he's also been working with P and with Greg, going through all kinds of minutes, going back very, very long time to see if there's anything we could find related to this case when we first knew of issues, so that way we could, and he's put the carrier, the EGIF, the environmental GIF, on notice as well, so that way, you know, if there's anything that we can do with it, we will pursue it.
All right, well then I will open up the next hearing of citizens. All that stuff from before. Anybody wanna speak? Anybody on Zoom?
We do not have any hands raised.
All right, then I will close the hearing of citizens, and can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good week, and I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.